The giant hologram filled the United Nations chamber, casting an eerie blue light across the faces of Earth's most powerful leaders. Ambassador James Walker stood at the podium, his hands gripping its edges as he stared up at the alien figure. The being called itself High Counselor Dax, and its elongated head and multiple eyes would have seemed almost comical if not for the grave situation. The terms are simple: humans. Dax's voice boomed through the chamber. The Galactic Council demands a protection tribute of 30% of all your planetary resources. This includes minerals, water, biological materials, and processed goods. Walker kept his face neutral, though his knuckles whitened against the podium. Behind him, he could hear the whispers and gasps from the assembled UN representatives. This was humanity's first official contact with alien life, and it came in the form of a threat. "And if we refuse?" Walker asked, his voice steady despite the tension in his chest. The hologram shifted, showing images of barren worlds, their surfaces scared and lifeless. These civilizations also questioned the Council's authority. They no longer question anything. Dax's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "You have 30 Earth days to begin tribute collection. The Council is generous in its patience." As the hologram faded, chaos erupted in the chamber. Representatives shouted across the aisles, some demanding immediate surrender, others calling for war. Walker turned to face them, raising his hands for silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," he called out, his voice cutting through the noise. "We need order. The Security Council will convene in 1 hour." In the private chamber, 15 minutes later, Walker stood before the military leaders of Earth's most powerful nations. General Thompson of the United States Space Force displayed orbital scans showing the Council ship that had broadcast the hologram. It hung in high orbit, its size dwarfing the International Space Station. "Our scans show their technology is advanced," Thompson said, "but not as advanced as we expected. Their ship's hull is comparable to our newest battleships." Admiral Jones from the European fleet nodded. "They're either very confident, or they don't know about our military capabilities. We've kept our defense forces hidden well." Walker paced the room, his mind racing. "They didn't scan for our Mars bases or the asteroid belt shipyards. Either their sensors are limited or they're arrogant. Both work in our favor." The Chinese Admiral, Lai, spoke up. "We should appear weak. Let them think we're scrambling to meet their demands while we prepare our response." "Agreed," Walker said. "But we need more information. If they've done this before, there must be signs of their previous conquests." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had just been thrust onto a galactic stage, and their first role was that of a target. But these aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had given Earth time to prepare. Walker looked at each face in the room. "We have 30 days. That's 30 days to show them why you don't threaten humanity. Contact your governments. As of this moment, we're on war footing, but keep it quiet. Let's show the Council exactly what kind of tribute humanity prepares when threatened." As the members filed out, Walker stayed behind, staring at the image of the Council ship. In his pocket, his phone buzzed with a message from military intelligence. They had found something in old deep space scans, signals that suggested this wasn't the first time the Council had made these demands, but it might be the first time they'd faced a species that was ready for them. The game had begun, and humanity was playing for survival. But the Council was about to learn a harsh lesson. Sometimes the prey turns out to be the predator in disguise. Tom Reed sat in the dim light of his underground office at Military Intelligence, his eyes burning from staring at screens for 18 hours straight. Coffee cups littered his desk, but he barely noticed them anymore. What he saw in the data was far more important. "Dr. Miller," he called out to the scientist working across the room. "I think you need to see this." Anna Miller walked over, her lab coat wrinkled from the long hours. She leaned over his shoulder, squinting at the screen filled with signal patterns. "These are deep space recordings from the last 50 years, Tom explained, pointing to several matching patterns. "See these spikes? They're not random. Each one appears just before a civilization goes dark. Anna's eyes widened. How many? 7 that we can confirm. All within our detection range. Tom pulled up another screen. And look at this. The Council ship's engine signature. Their FTL drive is using basic quantum folding. We surpassed that technology 5 years ago. That's impossible, Anna muttered, but she was already pulling up her own data. Their ship should be more advanced than anything we have. Tom smiled grimly. Unless they never needed to advance, why improve your weapons when no one fights back? The door burst open, and Admiral Stone strode in, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. Please tell me you have something good. Anna rushed to her computer and projected a 3D model of the Council ship's drive system. Their technology is outdated, Admiral. They're using brute force where we use precision. Our quantum computing capabilities are at least 3 generations ahead of what they're showing. It gets better, Tom added, sending more data to the projection. They're not even trying to detect our Mars bases. Their scanning technology is focused on obvious industrial signatures. Our stealth systems might as well be magic to them. Admiral Stone's face broke into a rare smile. So they don't know about our hidden shipyards? No, sir, both analysts replied in unison. And our ships are faster. Anna nodded eagerly. Much faster. Their folding technology creates a massive energy signature. Ours, she paused, pride evident in her voice. Ours barely registers on their scanners. The Admiral walked to the main screen, studying the signal patterns. These other civilizations, the ones that went dark, what happened to them? Tom's face darkened. Based on the data, total destruction. But sir, they never saw it coming. We have something they didn't. What's that? Time to prepare. And Tom glanced at Anna, who nodded encouragingly. We found their weakness. The Council's ships all use the same communication frequency. It's encrypted, but with our quantum computers. We can break it, Anna finished. We can listen to everything they say. Admiral Stone straightened, his decision made. Keep this quiet. I want all our advantages classified at the highest level. He turned to leave, then paused. How long to get our Mars fleet ready? The automated systems have been running since the Council's arrival, Anna replied. 28 days until full combat readiness. Perfect. They gave us 30. The Admiral's smile turned predatory. Keep working. I need to inform the Security Council that humanity isn't as helpless as our visitors think. As the Admiral left, Tom and Anna shared a look. Through the thick walls of their underground facility, they could almost feel the massive machinery of human preparation beginning to move. In orbit, civilian ships continued their normal routes, while deep in the asteroid belt, hidden shipyards roared to life. The Council had made their demand, expecting submission. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Humanity had spent decades preparing for threats from the stars, and now those preparations were about to pay off. In 28 days, the galaxy would learn why you should never corner a species that had spent its entire history preparing for war. The massive underground hangar on Mars buzzed with activity. Admiral Stone walked along the elevated platform, watching as robots assembled warships at an impossible speed. The project named Steel Rain glowed on screens throughout the facility, a constant reminder of humanity's response to the Council's threats. 20,000 ships completed, reported Captain Rogers, walking beside the Admiral. Another 30,000 will be ready in 18 days. Admiral Stone nodded, his eyes fixed on the assembly lines below. And the weapons systems. Our quantum-tipped missiles are ready. The Council won't know what hit them. Rogers handed over a tablet showing test results. Their shields can't stop what they can't detect. In another part of the facility, crews worked to retrofit civilian ships with military-grade shields. The ship's captains had been told it was a safety upgrade. Only a handful knew the truth. Every trading vessel would become a potential warrior in the coming battle. Sir, a young lieutenant ran up to them, almost out of breath. Message from Earth. Dr. Miller's team has finished the stealth system upgrades. The Admiral's face showed the first smile in days. Show me. They walked to the command center, where a large screen displayed a live feed from Earth orbit. The Council's ship hung there, its sensors sweeping space around it. Below it, completely invisible to their scans, 3 human battleships moved into position. They can't see them at all. Stone asked. Not even a whisper, Rogers confirmed. Our quantum stealth technology bends space itself around our ships. To their sensors, it's like we don't exist. In the asteroid belt, hidden shipyards worked at full capacity. What had once been mining operations now produced weapons and armor. Every asteroid large enough to hide behind became a construction site. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, and now those preparations were paying off. Ambassador Walker's voice came through the command center speakers. Admiral, the Council's representatives are getting suspicious. They're asking why we haven't started gathering their tribute yet. Keep them talking, James, Stone replied. Tell them we're having trouble coordinating global efforts. Play up our apparent disorganization. Understood. They seem to believe humans are primitive and disunited. Their arrogance is working in our favor. The Admiral turned to address the command center staff. 15 days until the deadline. I want every ship armed and every crew trained. We only get one chance to show the Council why humanity isn't to be trifled with. On screens around the room, status reports showed the progress of Project Steel Rain. Green lights indicated completed ships, while blue markers tracked the movement of stealth vessels into position around key Council worlds. The plan was coming together perfectly. Sir, Rogers said quietly, the civilian population is getting nervous. The Council's ship makes daily broadcasts about the consequences of resistance. Stone's face hardened. Let them broadcast. In 15 days, they'll learn that threats only make humans work harder. The Admiral walked to the main viewport, watching as another battleship rose from its underground hangar into the thin Martian atmosphere. Its hull gleamed red in the distant sunlight before the stealth systems activated, making it vanish from sight. Humanity has spent its entire history preparing for war, Stone said to no one in particular. We built these facilities because we knew that one day someone would come from the stars to threaten us. The Council thinks they're dealing with primitive beings who will bow to their demands. He turned back to his staff, his voice firm with conviction. Instead, they're about to face the most prepared species they've ever encountered. Humanity doesn't bow to threats. We answer them. In the silence that followed, the sounds of preparation echoed through the facility. Humanity was ready for war, and the countdown to their response ticked steadily onward. Ambassador Walker stood before the Council's hologram, his face a perfect mask of worried submission. Behind him, trucks moved slowly across the Nevada desert, apparently gathering resources for the tribute. In reality, they were empty, part of an elaborate show for the Council's watching sensors. As you can see, High Counselor, Walker said, gesturing to the activity behind him, Earth is working hard to meet your demands. However, coordinating a global collection effort is challenging for our primitive systems. High Counselor Dax's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of annoyance. Your species' inefficiency is trying our patience, Ambassador. Perhaps we should send our own collection ships to speed up the process. That won't be necessary, Walker said quickly, allowing just the right amount of fear to creep into his voice. We've already begun establishing collection points in major cities. See, he transmitted images of busy ports and warehouses, carefully edited to hide their true nature. In orbit, the Council's ship recorded everything, its sensors missing the quantum-encrypted signals passing right through their surveillance net. Deep in the military intelligence bunker, Tom Reed watched the exchange with satisfaction. They're buying it completely, he reported to Admiral Stone. Their arrogance blinds them to everything we're doing. The Admiral stood before a massive holographic display showing the positions of Earth's hidden fleet. Thousands of stealth ships had already moved into position near key Council worlds, completely undetected by their outdated scanning technology. Status of the civilian evacuation? Stone asked. Nearly complete, Tom replied. We've moved most of the population away from potential military targets under the guise of tribute collection efforts. The Council thinks we're gathering resources, but we're actually preparing our cities for potential combat. In high orbit, hidden behind Earth's moon, Dr. Miller monitored the final tests of their quantum weapon systems. All ships report ready, Admiral, she transmitted. The Council's shields won't know what hit them. Time remaining? Stone asked. 3 days until their deadline, Tom answered. Their collection fleet is already on the way. Long-range sensors show 50 ships, exactly as we predicted. They're not even trying to hide their approach. Walker's hologram appeared in the command center. Admiral, I've just finished another session with the Council. They've taken the bait completely. They think we're scrambling in panic to meet their demands. Stone allowed himself a small smile. Excellent work, Ambassador. I almost believe your act myself. Years of diplomatic training finally paying off. Walker replied with a grim chuckle. Though I must admit, watching their smug superiority while knowing what's coming has been satisfying. The Admiral turned to his tactical display. Green dots showed Earth's hidden ships, now numbering over 50,000, positioned throughout Council space. Red dots marked the approaching collection fleet, moving with the confidence of an undefeated force. All ships maintain position. Stone ordered. Let them come to us. Let them think they've won until the very last moment. In cities across Earth, the final preparations were made. Civilian ships, now armed with military-grade weapons, maintained their regular trading routes, playing the part of ignorant merchants. Underground bases hummed with power as they prepared for the coming battle. Message from the Council ship, Tom announced. They're demanding a progress report on tribute collection. Walker straightened his tie, preparing for another performance. Tell them I'll provide a full report. Let's give them exactly what they expect. The image of a primitive species struggling to meet their demands. As the Ambassador began another masterful display of apparent submission, Admiral Stone watched the tactical display. 2 more days until the collection fleet arrived. 2 more days until humanity revealed its true strength. The greatest deception in human history was about to reach its climax, and the Council had no idea they were walking into a trap. The Council's collection fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 50 massive ships, each one bigger than anything humanity had ever officially built, moved toward Earth with absolute confidence. Their commander, Fleet Master Dax, stood on his bridge with satisfaction. Another primitive world would soon learn its place in the galaxy. Fleet Master, one of his officers called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the human ambassador." Walker's hologram appeared on the bridge, looking appropriately nervous. "Honored Fleet Master, Earth welcomes you. We have gathered what resources we could." Dax's multiple eyes narrowed. "Your collection efforts have been inadequate, Ambassador. We will now take direct control of the process." "I understand," Walker replied, then paused. "However, before you proceed, Earth has a counteroffer to present." "Counteroffer?" Dax laughed, the sound echoing across his bridge. "Primitives do not make offers to the Council." Walker smiled, and for the first time, Dax saw something dangerous in the human's expression. "Actually, we do. Admiral Stone, if you would." Suddenly, alarms blared across the Council fleet. Around them, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Ships appeared everywhere. Thousands of them, then tens of thousands. Sleek, deadly vessels of human design, decloaked in perfect attack formation, surrounding the Council fleet entirely. "Impossible." Dax stumbled back. "Their technology, their primitives." Admiral Stone's hologram replaced Walker's. "Fleet Master Dax, allow me to present Earth's counteroffer. You are currently surrounded by 50,000 battleships. each one carrying weapons your sensors can't detect and shields you can't penetrate. On the Council flagship's bridge, officers scrambled to make sense of their readings. The human ships hadn't been there a moment ago. Their sensors showed clean space right until the moment of decloak. "You dare threaten the Council?" Dax roared, but fear had crept into his voice. "Not a threat," Stone replied calmly. "A demand. The Council will immediately cease all tribute collection from all species. A new galactic assembly will be formed, where all spacefaring races have equal representation." Dax's secondary hearts were racing. "The Council has ruled for 10,000 years. You cannot simply." "We can and we will," Stone interrupted. "Look at your tactical display, Fleet Master. Your ships are entirely at our mercy. And this is just the solar system fleet. Would you like to see what's currently surrounding your core worlds?" New data flooded the Council ship's screens. More human vessels, thousands of them, had decloaked near every major Council world. The impossible had happened. A primitive species had completely outmaneuvered the galaxy's supreme power. "How?" Dax whispered. "How did we not see this?" "You saw what we wanted you to see." Walker's hologram reappeared. "Your arrogance made you blind. While you watched us scramble to collect your tribute, we were preparing your downfall." Admiral Stone's voice was steel. "You have 1 hour to transmit your surrender and agree to our terms. Otherwise, we'll demonstrate exactly why humans became the galaxy's apex predator on our world." In the silence that followed, Dax looked at the sea of human ships surrounding his fleet. Each one was powered up, weapons ready, their designs unlike anything the Council had seen. In near days, these primitives had accomplished what no species had managed in 10,000 years. They had brought the Council to its knees. We will need to discuss your terms," Dax finally said. "Wise choice," Stone replied. "Oh, and Fleet Master, next time you find a new species, you might want to check if they're truly primitive before making demands." The Council fleet hung motionless in space, surrounded by humanity's answer to their tribute demand. The age of Council dominance was over, ended not by force, but by human preparation and deception. News spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, beings of all species gathered around communication terminals, watching in amazement as recordings of the Council fleet's surrender played again and again. The impossible had happened. Someone had finally stood up to the Council, and won. Ambassador Walker stood in the newly established Galactic Assembly chamber on neutral ground, watching as representatives from dozens of species filed in. Many wore the marks of recent rebellion: bandages, hastily repaired clothing, the proud scars of resistance. "The Centaur worlds have overthrown their Council governors," Tom Reed reported, checking his datapad. "That makes 15 major systems in the past week alone." "And the Council's response?" Walker asked. "Nothing. They can't respond. Our ships are still in position around their core worlds, and their military is in chaos." Tom smiled. "Turns out a lot of their subject species were just waiting for a chance to fight back." On the main display, reports continued to pour in. The trading species known as the Merchants had turned their entire fleet against the Council. The warrior clans of the Rigel system had reclaimed their ancestral worlds. Everywhere, the Council's iron grip was crumbling. Admiral Stone entered the chamber, followed by representatives from 3 newly liberated worlds. "The technical exchange program is ready to begin," he announced. "We'll start sharing our quantum computing and stealth technology with allied species immediately." "Any resistance from the Council worlds?" Walker asked. "Some of their hardliners wanted to fight," Stone replied, "but they changed their minds when we demonstrated our quantum torpedoes on an uninhabited moon. They didn't enjoy watching their impenetrable shields fail." In the chamber center, a holographic map showed the rapidly changing galaxy. Green lights represented liberated worlds, spreading like a wave across former Council space. Red dots showing Council strongholds were becoming increasingly rare. Dr. Miller rushed in, excitement clear on her face. Ambassador, Admiral, you need to see this. The Alphans have contacted us. They're one of the oldest species in the galaxy, but they've been in hiding from the Council for centuries. Hiding? Walker asked. Yes, and now they want to join our alliance. They say, she paused, checking her notes, they say humanity has finally brought balance to the galaxy. On a dozen former Council worlds, human technicians worked alongside alien engineers, sharing the advances that had allowed Earth to resist. The quantum stealth technology, once humanity's greatest secret, became a symbol of liberation. Message from the merchant fleet, Tom announced. They've secured the Council's main shipyards. The workers there have joined the revolution. They're converting the tribute collection ships into cargo vessels for humanitarian aid. Walker watched as more representatives entered the chamber, each carrying stories of successful rebellions and overthrown Council control. Species that had paid tribute for generations were finally standing tall, inspired by humanity's example. Did you ever think, he asked Admiral Stone, that by standing up to them, we'd start all this? Stone looked at the assembled aliens, many of whom were eagerly sharing their own stories of resistance. Honestly, yes, oppression only works until someone proves it can be fought. We just had to show them it was possible. The Council's official surrender document is ready for signing, Tom reported. Their remaining leaders are waiting in the next chamber. They're not happy about the terms. They don't need to be happy, Walker replied. They just need to understand that the old way is over. The galaxy is changing. As if to emphasize his words, another group of alien representatives entered, their faces bright with newfound freedom. The revolution that humanity had sparked was spreading faster than anyone had predicted, remaking the galaxy one world at a time. The age of tribute was ending. The age of freedom had begun. 1 year after the Council's surrender, the Great Hall of the Galactic Federation sparkled under the light of 3 suns. The space station that housed it hung at the intersection of major trade routes, a symbol of the new era. Ambassador Walker stood at the main window, watching ships from 100 species pass by peacefully. Quite a change from last year, Admiral Stone said, joining him at the window. Remember when they demanded tribute? Now they're asking for trading partnerships. Walker smiled. Amazing what can happen when you stand up to a bully. The main chamber behind them buzzed with activity. Representatives from over 200 worlds gathered for the first anniversary of the Federation's founding. Former Council worlds sat alongside their one-time subjects, all equal under the new laws. Report from the Technology Exchange Program, Dr. Miller announced, approaching with her datapad. The merchants have successfully integrated our quantum computing systems. Their ships are now twice as efficient at plotting trade routes. And the former Council worlds? Stone asked. Adapting well. Once we showed them how our stealth technology worked, they admitted their own research had been pointing in that direction. They'd just been too set in their ways to see it. Tom Reed hurried over, his face bright with excitement. You're going to want to see this. The deep space exploration teams just made contact with 3 new species. All of them had been hiding from the Council. Now they want to join the Federation. On the main display, a map showed the known galaxy. Trade routes crisscrossed between worlds, marked in peaceful green rather than the Council's threatening red. The tribute collection stations have been converted into trading posts and cultural exchange centers. The aid fleet has reached the outer colonies, a young officer reported. The former tribute ships are now delivering medical supplies and educational materials. Walker nodded with satisfaction. And the Council members? Most have accepted positions as advisors, Tom said. Turns out they're quite helpful when they're not trying to dominate everyone. Their experience in managing galactic affairs has been valuable. High Counselor Dax, now serving as a regular Federation representative, approached the human group. His once imperious bearing had been replaced by a more thoughtful demeanor. Ambassador Walker, Dax said, his multiple eyes showing what humans had learned was embarrassment. The Federation Council has finished reviewing the new Mutual Defense Protocol. It has been unanimously approved. Thank you, Representative Dax, Walker replied kindly. Your support helped convince many of the older worlds. The least I could do, Dax admitted. We spent 10,000 years taking tribute when we should have been building alliances. Humanity showed us a better way. In the station's massive docking bay, ships from across the galaxy sat side by side. Human vessels shared repair facilities with former council ships. Merchant traders exchanged goods with species that had been enemies just a year ago. Message from Earth, Tom announced. The first graduating class of the Galactic Academy is ready. Students from 50 species, all trained in advanced technology and diplomatic relations. Admiral Stone looked out at the peaceful scene before them. Hard to believe it all started with a demand for tribute. Sometimes the best changes come from standing up to threats, Walker replied. Humanity didn't just resist the Council. We showed the galaxy a new way forward. The station's artificial day cycle began to dim, creating the sunset effect. In the Great Hall, representatives of countless species mingled freely, sharing stories and making plans for the future. The tribute system that had oppressed the galaxy for 10,000 years was now just a history lesson. Humanity had turned a demand for tribute into an opportunity for change. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never threaten a species that turns threats into opportunities. The new order had begun, and it was built not on tribute and fear, but on cooperation and mutual respect. Just as humanity had planned all along.